Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Why is the Release the Ayer Cut campaign so important? Well, it's important because Release the Snyder Cut was important as well. A director's vision is extremely important because in today's movie industry that's dominated by capes and comic book adaptations, you get processed movies, especially over at Disney with Marvel Studios. And for me, most of us who consume those movies watch them once and forget about them. There's a reason for that, because the people who put these movies together aren't people who love film. They're looking to put something in a can, put a lid on it, and want you to consume it so they can make money on the opening weekend, so they can make money on the Blu-rays and the DVDs. But they're not interested in the writer-director's vision. Now, what's really important is today is that over at DC, we have actually had some really good movies that were purely a director's vision. Man of Steel, for example, were the writers' and directors' vision in terms of Nolan, Goyer, and Snyder. That's why you'll never see it kind of an extended edition, a director's cut of that movie. There's no need to, because Nolan protected Snyder and protected his and David Goyer's vision. Now in BVS, they cut half an hour out of that movie, which dented the director's vision. That's why it was very, very important. Now, someone said to David Ayer last night, he goes, whatever happens, your movie's bad, because adding a couple of deleted scenes doesn't make a difference. As David explained, it's not just about that. The entire opening is dramatically different. But the key and heart to any movie is the editing. Anyone who's made a movie or put a video together or edited a video together understands that. How you cut a movie, how you put scenes together is important. What scenes come in order of the next scene, how they kind of buzz off of each other. It's so important. It's your editing that makes the movie. A film, an episode of your TV show that you love, or a sitcom, the editing is so important. And this is why it's such a challenge to make a piece of fiction in live action in terms of television and film. You write it, you have the vision, you have the story, and then you go over the script again, and then you plot every scene out, and then you shoot as much as you can. So when you go to the editing, you can decide what works and what doesn't. Now, most random people who watch kind of TV and film won't understand that. Now, what Jeff Johns did, and the leadership, the previous leadership at Warner Brothers did, they took Suicide Squad, they rewrote it, and they reshot it. And even though most of these sequences were, some of them were written by David Ayer and a lot of it was shot by David Ayer, the context of the film was different because of the editing. And most important of all, what was on the cutting room floor. So dramatically, it's a different movie. Now, personally, I don't mind the theatrical cut of the original Suicide Squad movie. It's not Justice League, It's not as bad as Justice League. I don't think the theatrical version is a bad movie, but, David Ayer is correct. It's not his movie for these reasons, that the editing is different, the feel of the movie is different, and, there's no question about that. What you leave out and how you edit a movie makes a movie dramatically different. And I hope now that I've explained it to you, you understand why releasing the Ayer Cut is so utterly important. Some people say to me, Mick, isn't it about time we moved on? Isn't this the whole point of bringing in new leadership, a new CEO, two new co-chairs of Warner Brothers Pictures, two new co-chairs of DC Studios? In fact, they're the first ever co-chairs of the newly formed DC Studios. Yes, we want a new future. We want a new beginning, and that's important. But one thing has nothing to do with the other. It's just a film. Excuse me. It's just a film at the end of the day. It's people understand it's from the old regime. It's from the old vision. It's not confusing. you release it on HBO Max. You also at the same time release it on a physical copy and digital media internationally so people can purchase it. People will buy it and you will make a profit because at the end of the day, the VFX is there. It's pretty much put together. So this movie doesn't need any marketing or reshoots or anything like that. Zack Snyder added new things. He spent, what did he spend? Nearly 70 million on VFX. The VFX was amazing, but they had to rush it out in around a year. So that was a huge undertaking because, as we all said from the time, we were fighting for the Snyder Cut. Now, Snyder had multiple cuts of this movie, but Justice League wasn't his movie. They took elements of what Zack shot, what Josh shot, and what was rewritten for Justice League. It wasn't Zack's movie. Now, the same with the air cut. The air cut and the theatrical release of Suicide Squad are two dramatically different takes, and this is why it's important it gets released. Now, as I've already said, there is new leadership everywhere. Mainly the people who used to run this studio in DC are gone. So there's no embarrassment for this. There's no embarrassment for this new leadership of this studio because they didn't make these decisions. So that's another reason there's a good chance of, the air cut actually being released. And I think they should release it. It doesn't hurt them one little bit. David Ayer, bless his heart, was very supportive of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I hope that James Gunn remembers that. But here's the thing. Even though people keep on name-dropping James Gunn and Peter Safran, the decisions are not solely theirs. They're David Zaslav's. Peter and James, of course, are in charge, but the final decision is always with David Zaslav. Unlike box office analyst Luis Fernando said that, he was just going to be a guy, a suit in the boardroom, and other people would be making the decisions. No, this guy has got his fingers on the chicken switch, and the final decisions are always down to him. So ultimately, predominantly, the final decision whether or not the air cut should be released is going to be down to David Zaslav. So clearly, this situation is on David's desk. What do I think is going to happen? I think past couple of weeks, David Ayer's been acting maybe like something's going to happen. I have no idea. But when you're in a studio and you see a trend of over 130,000 tweets, however much it was, I don't know. That's got to have an effect on you, especially when you're a studio on the verge of bankruptcy and you're trying to find $3.5 billion from somewhere. Now, the air cut isn't going to make lots and lots of money, but every little helps, right? And at the same time, you show your consumer, us, the fans, that you're listening, that, you're paying attention. And this is why this is so utterly important. Because James Gunn and Peter Safran in their opening statements said, although they want a connected universe, they want to create a place where directors have a freedom of artistry, a freedom of creativity, creative integrity. James Gunn, being a director who demands that integrity himself, understands why releasing this film is utterly important. James Gunn is probably the only writer-director over at the MCU that's had completely creative integrity and freedom. Feige has never allowed anyone else to do that because he understands Gunn can have his vision, but he also keeps it in line with what Feige wants, the family audience. So James Gunn knows he's had that freedom both at DC and Marvel. So now it's time to give that freedom back to another director who was robbed. Now, that's for David Ayer. Now, I suppose one of their concerns for not releasing this movie, they don't want people keep on wanting more. If you release the Ayer cut like they released the Snyder cut, then, people want the Snyderverse restored. But at the end of the day, If you don't want to restore the Snyderverse, then you don't restore the Snyderverse. You know, that decision is with James, Peter, Pam, Mike, and most importantly, David Zaslav. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again tonight for our live evening chat. So until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.